Welcome, welcome, one and all, to another race, Division 2 of Rush Racing North America, Europe. We are here at the lovely track in Shanghai, in China. I am your host, GameHawk, and with me for Division 2, where it's becoming a tradition, I guess, it is the one and only Wildcat. How are you feeling right now, Wildcat?
A little bit exhausted, slightly frustrated from Div 1 race, but I'm here.
And I mean, hey,
So,
that's all that we can. That's all we can ask for. I'm glad that you're here, and I can definitely say that I just like Verstappen. I have fun commentating with you, and especially since my voice is probably going to disappear halfway through this race, I'm definitely going to be relying on you to help bring the energy as we go. But we'll see.
no guaranteed. I'm kind of hoping, and I mean, if there are any drivers watching stream while they're on track, I'm hoping you guys remember put on your setups because this is full qualifying. We've got 3 sessions, and if you're like me who didn't put on their setup before retiring because of a quote unquote quality ban that shouldn't have happened, but things happen and we just kind of gotta adjust, then you're stuck running a preset setup the entire race. So, there's also that kind of that shenanigans that happen.
A good reminder indeed, because I'm not gonna lie, whenever I was watching and commentating for Division 1, I had no idea that you didn't have a setup. I had no clue that anything like that was happening. So I guess that is a very good reminder to put out to everyone. But we saw Division 1. Sorry, go ahead, my bad.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, it was kind of a tough race because it was more so instead of me being able to just kind of run on autopilot to be able to look at telemetry data and kind of see what's going on with drivers around me and figuring out when I'm gonna attack here or am I gonna back off, hold position, when am I gonna pit. It turned into okay, I've got to focus, I've got to nail every single braking point, I've got to trail brake perfectly into these corners. I gotta, make sure that tire temps stay where they are. I'm literally running through everything that concerns the car as much as possible the entire race because it's like, well, there's only a few things I could modify: front wing, the diff settings, the brake bias, and the tire pressures. That's pretty much all I had to use because of Park Ferme locking out everything else. So it's like, well, this race is gonna take a miracle for me to be able to climb up in the top 10. But on that setup, I managed to gain 3 places. So I mean, all in all, I mean, I guess you could say there was some kind of a okay hurrah takeaway from it, but I feel like there would have been more gained with my setup. So
Yeah, and I mean, I agree because I've also had races where you want to run your own setup and then by either like you forget or you just don't get a chance and then you have to run on the default. I can definitely I can relate to you that it is not fun to try and run on a default setup. But talking about that Div 1 race, Div 1, that was a very interesting race, and it was mostly interesting because of the conflict that some people did. I mean, we heard from the top drivers like Illyrian that they all said that the one stop strategy would not work. That didn't stop at least I believe it was 4 different drivers, and 2 of them made it into the top 10 that they did it on a one stop. So there was a little bit of strategy conflict there.
oh yeah, and see that's the thing. Me and Maraki Don were actually kind of talking about that, and I told him I was like, I'm gonna just guarantee the 2 stop today because China, the nature of the track. I mean, people tend to get fooled by the long by that. You got a straightaway that's a kilometer long. So I mean, it is kind of inviting to you wanted to just go with a straight line speed setup, not a whole lot of downforce and just send it. But which kind of you've got to find that technical balance to have the good mechanical grip, especially through sector 2 with the high speed sweepers. and then you've got that tight double left-hand apex that you've got to hit. So, and then of course turns 1, turns 2, and then you've got, you know, that nice roundabout onto the back straight. So you still got to have, you know, significant downforce to be able to get through that without losing the car. So, I mean, going for the one stop, I mean, it wasn't out of the cards. I mean, by the game strategy, a one stop was viable. But to pull something like that off, it required mediums, hards. You could not use the softs, and your downforce had to be relatively high to be able to keep the tires in good shape over a stint so you didn't lose it. So I'm kind of not surprised that there were a few that went for the one, but I know I went for the two stop because I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna push flat out from lap 1 all the way to the end, and you know, if I crash out, screw it, I crash out, but we'll just kind of see what happens. And I was going to be eating tires because of that, so I was like, yeah, this is guaranteed 2-stop. So I just said, all right, I'm starting on the soft tire, and I'm just going to be aggressive out the gate. Let's go. So, I mean, I'm a little bit, I guess you could say, weary of Div 2. There's some in Div 2 who have shown us, you know, that they can carry a set of tires quite the distance and still keep some decent pace, like the Governor, who we saw in preseason actually take a set of hards in preseason race 1 at Bahrain, which we know has pretty high tire deg as well, but a very grippy surface, and he took those hards 19 out of 20 laps. So it's not off the table that a one-stop couldn't be doable. It just depends on how confident these drivers are and how well they can manage.
Yeah, and I mean, I couldn't really have said it any better myself, but yeah, it's really going to come down. I'm just very curious to see, like comparing Division 1 to Division 2, as you were talking about. I am very curious to see how many of these drivers will take that into consideration. It's just going to be very curious to see which one of the drivers are going to maybe try that strategy and see maybe if a one-stop is viable, because I will say, if somehow the Governor takes a set of hards here to 16 laps and he finishes in the top 5, I'm gonna lose it, because I don't think that should be possible. But if he does, absolutely props to him. And actually, right before we talk about it, I was about to say that Nishka right now has the fastest time, in which I think he's that confident that he retires from the session. And so far, he has a 133.2. We have seen that sector, or the first qualifying session, usually isn't the fastest, but that's a pretty good starting time.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm looking at some of the extra tidbits here, and Nishka actually has the first and third sectors best of anybody with Cedars, who I do believe is a reserve in the Mercedes today, having the best middle sector, not by much. But Nishka, me and him actually talked prior to the race, and he actually kind of let me in on the fact that he laid down in practice a 32.7, and SJ, his teammate, or the Governor, actually laid down a 33 flat. So both of them, this is an indication. This may very well be an indictment that they are both meaning business today and coming and looking to put up some very good points for Red Bull.
Yeah, I was about to say, if they do that, we may see like full Red Bull domination, just because Marakidan doing so well in the Red Bull in Division 1, and then if you have Nishka and the Governor finishing in 1 and 2, I mean, Red Bull domination, I guess, is on the board, but I mean, we'll have to see how the rest of the grid will go. Because I mean, right now, Q1 is usually not the best way to see. Usually it's a good way to see it, like the first starting lap, seeing who's there. There's a McLaren in the gravel and a Racing Bull. Oh my word, Bruiser. Oh, but no, he does spin, but he keeps it out of the barrier. I don't know how Bruiser kept his Racing Bull out of the barrier, but good job to him. Sorry, we got distracted with that, but usually qualifying 1 is a good place to see where a lot of these times will stack up. But then Q2 and Q3 is where we see the real pace start to show.
Oh, absolutely. And and just a little highlight to Bruiser. He actually signed for the remainder of the season with VCarb after his performance in the VCarb in Australia 2 weeks ago. So he's now actually the full-time number 2 drive for VCarb, which is actually a pretty good pickup for them, considering he finished P2 in the season opener right behind Harold. So that his team principal might be having a conversation with him when he gets back to the garage, trying to simmer him down a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, and I will say that, like, a good job to Bruiser for having that great performance and then end up securing a seat. That is definitely a good job to him. And I mean, we'll see if it continues. I apologize for laughing, but I believe that I just watched Verstappen cut across the other Racing Bull of Bookie. That I apologize. That was a little bit funny. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely Division 2 and even in Division 1 for the reserve drivers. This is definitely there's definitely so many opportunities that if you do well, there's always probably going to be a team principal watching and waiting. And if you do well, you usually get your shot. So that's what really kind of propels a lot of these drivers to do really well, because you get opportunities like that where there's you do well as a reserve driver and all of a sudden you have a full-time seat.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's like looking at Division 1 today, I mean, we had 16 drivers show up. Div 2 showed up with almost all 20 drivers, and which, I mean, one thing I kind of, it's kind of to be taken is that we had we had the entire McLaren team in Div 1 unable to make it today. So McLaren had no presence in Div 1 today, which was kind of a sad sight. But we had 11 people that checked not able to show for Div 1. So that kind of impacted a lot of things, and we had 3 reserve drivers in Div 1 today, which all 3 actually seemed to do a pretty good job overall. So I mean, and team principals are definitely always looking, and we're always in the chat talking about situations. And I mean, as things do develop and go on, we'll probably go a little bit more in depth to see what can happen. Will these team principals start getting crafty and wanting to do driver trades and things of that sort, like the NFL and the NBA?
Yeah, and honestly, actually, you say that to the point, and I kind of wish that they had a thing like that in the NFL where there was options for that. But never mind other sports, as we are currently roughly 2.5 minutes left here in Q1 with 19 drivers. That means P19, P18, 17, and 16 will be eliminated. Right now, Bruiser and John have not set a lap time. Bruiser in the Racing Bull, who had that spin in Sector 3. So he's going to look to set a time now. Verstappen and a new driver, Knox, in the Alpine is also on an outlap right now. So we'll see if they're going to be able to get out of the bottom of the grid, the elimination zone. So the governor will also retire, feeling confident in his time, and wouldn't necessarily be surprised as I see other drivers, as actually H-Town does, which he might be relatively safe, but Mr. Koopa in the Haas actually retires. So I'm gonna be kind of shocked to see that's maybe a little bit of a gamble that you don't want to run another lap maybe, but I guess we'll see as the clock's winding down. And Bruiser is setting his time right now. He's probably the biggest threat to anyone else to the knockdown zone, which would right now be Wilco in the Ferrari, as he's gonna come across the line, and we'll see where he is, and he is up into P6. I don't think he has to worry about being eliminated anymore.
Not at all. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Koopa is probably in the garage right now. He is probably fuming, and his team principal's probably going to be having some words with him as to why he retired with this much time left with still time to get out there. He didn't even run a lap on soft tires, but he was probably trying to gamble the fact that, okay, these guys behind me haven't done laps, maybe they're not gonna do laps or something of that nature. And Bruiser just set a lap that actually Bruiser, and I do believe, who else moved up here? I'm not.
It was
entirely sure, but
Wilco in the Ferrari also moved up into P12 as well.
Oh, so Wilco and Bruiser set 2 faster laps that pretty much pushed him out of it. So he's pretty much going to find himself out of Q1, and his team principal Verstappen actually goes ahead and just says save what you got, and I guess they're going to go ahead and start game planning race strategy to try and figure out how they're going to bring those Haas's from the back of the grid.
So right now Q1 is pretty much set right now. A lot of the drivers still setting their qualifying laps. Right now Knox is currently on a lap right now. John had his lap disqualified, I'm guessing for track limits, so he will probably be done. Mr. Koopa retired, Verstappen retired, so right now the last driver to try and get out of the elimination zone is Knox in the Alpine, making his way right now out of sector 2. And we do know that Suspension, the Kick Sauber ahead of him, is trying to set a faster lap, and he just set a purple sector 2 actually, where he was 0.3 faster than his last time, and he just set a purple sector 2. So we'll see. If it would be kind of crazy if both Suspension and Knox move up and possibly someone else gets knocked down. As you can see, a lot of the drivers still retaining their place. Howell in the Kick Sauber doesn't improve, so we'll see. As Suspension is in front, he doesn't have any more battery though. Depleted his entire battery, so no battery to the end of the lap. And he improves up into P3, so now we'll see, where does that put Knox? I don't think he improved. He did not. So
P17.
Whew, Howell is probably breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Oh, he most definitely is after that. That was honestly probably he's probably glad to have his teammate in Q2 with him. But I mean, it looked like, just looking at Knox from his onboards, he still had about 20% left in the battery down the main at the end of the long back straightaway. So he didn't fully, like Suspension killed his battery right at the end of the lap, into the last corner, had nothing left. He didn't pull, I guess he was trying to be a little bit conservative to have that battery for that, but he didn't. I feel like he left some time still on the table by saving that little bit of battery.
Yeah, I think he probably did. I mean, usually you want to dump the battery as much as possible, and especially in a situation like that where you're in the elimination zone. But we can dwell on that much more as now we head into Q2. This is more than likely what we'll start to see the faster times start to come out more, and I'm very interested to see who's going to set the faster times, because I mean, give credit to Nishka on his first lap set the fastest lap of Q1, and no one else really did anything to get past him. So I'm kind of curious to see if that trend will remain, and if Nishka is going to be able to do it again.
Just like that, I guess you could say in traditional F1 fashion, it seems that Howell is taking the Kick Sauber out of the garage first.
Yeah, maybe he's. And that wouldn't necessarily be shocked if he feels like let's just go ahead and maybe set a lap so then I can have a little bit better idea and maybe not have it as close, but we'll see.
Oh, absolutely, and I guess his teammate also followed suit, so they might be actually looking to possibly set up a tow for each other through quality to kind of try and maybe help both of them maybe advance into Q3.
Yeah, and actually that was something that we saw in Division 1, as I think that it's going to be a highlighter, and if it's not already, we definitely need to go back and clip it. But originally, both Haas drivers, Alizzi and Illyrian, Alizzi actually towed his teammate down the main stretch, and he gained almost, I think, 3/10 off of his lap because of that tow. But despite the amazing tow, somehow Meraki Dawn still ended up beating both Haas drivers to the end and had the faster lap. So, I mean, the tow is absolutely important. And I mean, Meraki Dawn is not racing in Division 2 as well. So maybe the tow will have a little bit more of an effect. But I do hope that we end up clipping that, because that was absolutely a great, crazy moment in Division 1.
Absolutely, and suspension seems to have actually him and Howell seem to have switched up. So he started the first flyer in Q2, and Cheeky, I just kind of noticed something a little bit on Suspension's car, and that's his number, which is 69. Now, as we know, in real life, Max Verstappen actually openly admitted he had actually considered running number 69, but in advisement of his partner Kelly Piquet, she told him that might not be such a good idea.
Hey, but I will say that is why we love Max Verstappen, am I right? I mean, love him or hate him, he's a man of the people. And he can
really
at least
is.
admit that.
I mean, he does. I mean, he does have his way about him, and he does have that bit of a temper that everybody knows. But Max does have his way of comedy as well. And one thing he did say on a podcast recently over the winter break is that he's the type of guy that if you ask him a stupid question, he's going to give you a stupid answer. Just to make you realize you asked a stupid question. And the suspension sets a 35.4, topped by his teammate with a 35.2 to open up Q2.
And Gianna's going to say, I'll top that, and goes to a 1:33. We'll see Project Nemesis with a 1:34.3. So Gianni will remain at the top for now. And actually, I believe Gianni actually was in the top 5 in Q1, I believe. So still really good. And look at that. The governor up into Q2 pole for right now.
And I'm looking at the sector times here. Gianni actually has him and Dr. J are relatively even through sector 1. Gianni barely by 0.08 of a second has SJ beat, but set the best first sector and sector 3. And Nishka just rolls and says, "Nope, I'm gonna back my teammate up here and blast one in," and now owns rights to sector 2 currently.
Yeah, and I mean, so far, I mean, actually, we said about it before that Q2 is usually where you start to see the faster times start to appear. And so far, Nishka and Zagovernor, oh, sorry, I should say Nishka, Zagovernor, Gianni, and Ced, all with a 1:33. And I mean, you can even see there's only, how much did you say? Roughly only 3/10 between the top 4, and then even then it's still only 5/10 to P5 as well. So I mean, a lot of these drivers are very close together.
Right, so I mean, I'm looking at it here, and Nishka and Zagovernor, it's only 64/100ths of a second between them right now, and Gianni is almost is just under 1/10 and a half away from Nishka, with Ced being just over a hair over a tenth and a half away from Nishka. So I mean, these guys are not messing around. But looking at Nishka's time, it's roughly about the same as what he did in Q1. So I'm willing to bet that him, SJ, that the top four probably went out on on a set of scrub softs, and they're looking to probably save a set into Q3 or possibly even the race.
Yeah, and actually, I do believe that that is actually the reason why Meraki Don was able to get such a good time, because he actually did save his tires because he set a lap on the mediums, and then he ended up having 2 extra pairs of softs going into Q3. So I do agree with you that I do think that that ends up being a very helpful, I don't want to say boost or cheat code, but it can definitely help your qualifying chances, because ultimately having the best rubber in these, especially coming down into Q3, you like that really could be the difference in hundredths of seconds. And I mean, you can go down the grid. The entire grid is, I mean, as you said, they are bringing their best, and you can see that they are all right near each other. And even though he has a set of lap time, even H-Town, who's on his out lap right now, he also in Q1 was setting a 1:34. So he is right there as well. So, I mean, the whole top 15 is literally neck and neck right beside each other.
Oh, most definitely. And I mean, it's going to be, I'm looking forward to seeing Div 2 possibly. Div 2 might actually be, as we saw in Australia, Div 2, all the drivers up from front to back, they all stuck pretty close to each other. I mean, you saw a couple of DRS train gaps form, but for the most part, nobody really left anybody alone in any regard. As we see H-Town's teammate just pull completely out the way to let him through to start that lap.
I apologize for staying silent. I was making sure that I was checking in the Discord, and it said that someone did need an invite. I don't know if they got in or not, so I may need your help with that. As H-Town will start his lap. He is on his lap right now, so we'll see what time he sets. And with 6 minutes left, a lot of the drivers currently on an out lap right now. We'll see where all these drivers end up. And actually, even someone in the chat, we see Rush Racing in the chat. Do you think you can help me out with that, Wildcat?
You're referring to Steven Sedgwick, correct? I'm trying to find him now. I think that's who was looking for the invite. Let me see what I can do on that.
Yeah, we want to make sure that the race will run smoothly and that we can get everyone who's involved back into the lobby and make sure that we can get that all set up and going. As we do have roughly 5.5 minutes here left in Q2. And I am actually very curious to see where H-Town, the Houston native, is going to end up, because it could really shake everything up, and he's only gonna get up into P12 with a 135.017. So actually, as soon as H-Town made his time, Zagovernor retired. So I think Zagovernor actually was looking at his time and wanted to see when he was gonna if he was gonna retire or not. Barry retires as well. So now I want to make sure that I did get the invite. And I did get it. I want to make sure that we get him in. I believe.
I do believe, Mercedes, that's right. Mercedes was the team that did not have a second driver for Div 2 today. So he was probably supposed to be here. He just might have shown up a little late.
Yeah. And I do believe that I did send him an invite. Hopefully he is able to join. And I believe I did accept his invite, or I accepted his friend request and sent him an invite. So hopefully he's going to be able to get in. But we have 2 people who have retired so far. The governor, who is still in P2, retires and holds his place. Barry retires. Barry does slip a little bit as Harold improved on his own time. But despite that said, will also retire. Nishka will retire. So we're seeing a lot more people retire here in Q2 than we did in Division 1 as well.
Well, as we know with Division 1, you've got a little bit more... And it looks like H-Town had a oopsie into the pit, colliding with the barrier.
That's what I'm
Not sure what's going on there, but he did manage to get it slowed down to where he just barely pooped the barrier, so he's probably thankful for that he didn't, you know, absolutely obliterate the front wing or the front end and cause himself to pretty much be out of qualifying completely. I'm pretty sure his team principal may have some words with him about that one later. But Div 1, with the amount of separation, I mean, the entire Div 1 roster, it's with everybody's covered within a second and a half. So there's really no room for margin, whereas in Div 2, you kind of get a little bit more room to play with, because if you figure like SJ and Mishka where they are in relation to, say, you come down to like Barry, you've got margin to play with as far as if there's drivers that are in the drop zone trying to get out. So you in that standpoint, you're kind of thinking, okay, you know what? I could get away with something here. So I'm just going to save some tires, retire, and then go ahead and do what they need to do mentally to get ready for Q3.
Yeah, and actually, well, speaking of Q3, a lot of the top drivers, as you said, I mean, some of them retired. More than likely, a lot of them are safe. But right now, looking from P15 to P11, you have both Kick Saubers of Suspension and Howl, H-Town P13, Wilco in P12, Dr. J in P11. So you can see a lot of them are really close together. Tenzo in P10 is currently, I would say, the most in trouble. You could include Bookie in that, but Bookie does have a good lap time, so it's gonna be a little bit close to see. But I'm very curious to see how this will go, because the clock is winding down, so not entirely sure if they're going to be able to do it. So it looks like Howell is going to go into the pit, so I don't believe that Howell is going to be able to set another time. But Suspension right now, he's trying his best, and we'll see if he's going to be able to. Yeah, we only have 50 seconds left to go.
And I think Suspension, he might have actually went out late to start that time, so he's looking to try and push to have Sauber's presence known in Q3, but the question is he going to actually be able to hook it in? And he's almost at no battery at the back straight, so he's giving it everything he has and absolutely pulling it out of that Sauber to try and make it happen. And as he rounds the final corner, will he make that Q3 presence known?
No, he won't.
I'm gonna say a lot of it, he may have gassed battery way too much through sector 1 and 2, because down the back straight, you've got to have at least a good 60% in the battery just to run the ERS the full length of the back straightaway. So if you're not managing it through the first 2 sectors, it's gonna bite you near the end.
Yeah, and right now we will see as H-Town and Dr. J are the last 2 drivers that have a chance to get out of the elimination zone. Dr. J right now coming down the straight out of the DRS zone. We will see, and that was, I don't know if you could have made much more time, but he does peel out of it. So Dr. J
will moving back and forth like a no disapproval.
Yeah, so he's just going to pull into the pit. So Dr. J's going to be out in P11. So now it comes down, and actually I think there's a few drops of rain that are starting to fall. So now if you're H-Town, you really want to get this going, or you really want to get this lap done.
And I was actually just looking over, and the Q3 is going to be very interesting because we in fact do have rain coming in.
And does H-Town do it? No, H-Town misses out of Q3 with a 134.4. He misses out by 600ths of a second. So H-Town, both Ferraris, both Kick Saubers, and Dr. J in the Williams miss out in Q2. And now we move on to Q3, and oh, that's got to be heartbreaking for the Houston native.
And I was actually just looking, and my screen just kind of flipped to Bookie, and Bookie seemed to have put it in the wall. Not sure why, but he put it in the wall and broke the entire front right suspension, and that may actually take him out of the running for Q3.
So I think
Dr. J got disqualified coming at the entry of pit lane for blocking pit lane. Not sure why or what happened there.
So actually, they just said, Dr. J actually in the chat said that his car ran out of fuel.
Oh.
So his car ran out of fuel and then he blocked. And actually, look at that. We have multiple people eliminated. I think the game might be glitched out because it says that Bookie in P10 is eliminated as well. The Dr. J is disqualified, suspension, Howell, Wilco, H-Town, and Bookie are eliminated. So
take that with a grain of salt and a bit of advice, people. When the rain starts to come down, be a little bit gentler on the brakes, slow down a lot quicker, a lot sooner, and mind those barriers into pit lane, because that actually cost Bookie in going into Q3. Now we've got a wet qualifying session for the final, and this is going to be quite interesting. As I'm looking here, this rain is not going to back up. It's actually going to intensify throughout this last qualifying session, and these guys have been on dry setups, so it's going to be interesting to see who's going to actually be able to make some adjustments to adapt to these wet conditions and get ready to actually, send it out here.
Yeah, and actually what's really funny is that looking at the chat, someone literally said what I was thinking. Me and Verstappen were questioning whether we were going to see it in Div 1, and at the very start of the race, it looked like this. It was very overcast, very cloudy. We were convinced that there was going to be rain during the Div 1 race, but now it's here in Div 2. Apparently they wanted to wait until the Div 2 race to start raining, but I agree. Drivers running dry setups, and now they're going to have to run inters and really not necessarily nurse the cars, but they're just going to have to try and not fully lose control because of what the setups are going to be. So I'm very curious to see how our starting grid is going to line up as.
Absolutely. This is going to be quite interesting, as Barry actually opted to go out on the softs. I'm not sure what he's got in mind there. Maybe he's figuring it's still just dry enough to maybe blast a lap in on the softs before it gets too late, and maybe do something reminiscent of what we saw Kevin Magnussen do a few years ago in the Haas in Brazil, where Haas actually stuck it on pole. Granted, it was for the sprint race, but Haas actually claimed their first ever pole position in team history because of weather. So is Barry maybe trying to take advantage of that? Because I'm looking here through Sector 2, and it looks like the straight before you hit the chicane to go on the back straight, there was no rain present, and then you come around and now there's rain again. So it might only be spotty at the moment.
That is very possible. I will say that this could be, if he's able to pull it off, because it doesn't look like he's really losing that much grip, and maybe the rain hasn't come down enough. But if he somehow is able to stick it out and he has enough grip, he might actually end up being at least a second, or at least maybe even a couple seconds faster than these drivers that are on inters. And because of the rain coming down, they're not going to be able to respond really. But it is a massive gamble, and I don't think that could be understated enough that this is a massive gamble for Barry.
Well, looking at turn 1 and 2, and turn 3, he seems to be hooking it up with not really any sliding of the rears trying to step out on him. So yeah, I'd say he might know something that we don't here.
It is very possible. I guess we'll see. It doesn't look like, at least from from commentating, it doesn't look like he's really losing any grip. So I mean, maybe like you said, maybe he knows something that we don't. And I guess one indication is that we said that DRS actually is enabled right now. So maybe that was the indication to Barry to say maybe to try the softs, and it looks like it's working so far for him.
Absolutely. And one thing I'm actually noticing with Barry right now, looking at his telemetry, his battery is almost full. So he's actually not using the battery. And as he gets to the back straight before DRS gets disabled. So he is going to be riding that battery all the way to the end to try and maximize here.
Yeah, so we'll see if it's going to work. He is running low on fuel, so I don't know if he's going to go set the lap or if he's going to go to the pits. He's going to set the lap. So this is going to be very interesting to see because he has someone right behind him, a 145.2, and Bruiser is going to be faster. So the Inters is the correct tire. So the risk does not pay off for Barry.
I mean, I applaud Barry for his efforts, and I mean, he took a chance. He said, you know what, it's early in Q1, I still have time to get back around, get back to the garage, swap tires, get back out there and set another lap. So, I mean, I give him credit for, trying something different, but at the end of the day, I mean, I felt like looking at how he had to manage the battery and that extra kick of horsepower that, these Formula One cars do tend to just, need to be able to do the things they do. I mean, these are fighter jets on wheels after all, but he just didn't have the grip completely there to actually do it. So now I'm looking to see, we've got SJ, the governor, who is out on a lap now, and Nishka, surprisingly, is still in pit lane.
Yeah, Nishka is still in the pit lane. His teammate, though, the governor, is about to set his lap. We'll see where he ends up. Him and Nishka, both Red Bulls, have been very quick in the dry. I'm very curious to see where he'll be here in the wet conditions. And actually, as you say that, Nishka will go out for his out lap. And the governor won't improve. He will stay in P8 at a 145.5. So maybe the rain becoming a challenge, which we talked about it. We said that using a dry setup and using a dry setup in the rain, it was going to hurt some of these fastest drivers. I feel like it may even hurt them going into the race, because if it's a dry race, you'll still end up starting in P8, and even if you're the faster driver, you have to fight through the entire grid still.
And as we know, with China, it can be quite tricky to pull passes in China. Granted, I mean, there's a great overtaking opportunity. You have DRS in the turn 1, and then you got to carry that speed around all the way around while slightly trailing the brakes as well into turn 2, and then switch back for turn 3. So, but I mean, there's been quite the moves pulled off through that, those 3 corners. I mean, I actually had one in Div 1 against P2 in the Williams, who's a new driver for Williams in Div 1. Me and him had a nice little battle in there, which actually kind of worked out to my advantage because it actually let me set up an undercut on him, which actually helped me to stay ahead of him after his pit stop. But it's going to be kind of interesting if these drivers can actually figure out a way to make overtakes. And again, coming down like SJ now is through the hairpin at the end of the long straight. That's another heavy braking point where we've seen quite a dive bomb in the history of F1 being sent. So, I mean, there's a few places in China to be able to pull off overtakes, but it's not exactly as easy.
Yeah, no, I would not say that any of this would necessarily be considered easy, as Nishka does start going out of their outlap and now starting their actual qualifying lap. Kind of like SJ, I'm very curious to see where Nishka will end up. I'm curious to see what the pace is. But, I mean, it's still just the rain is just like... You can be as fast as you want in the dry, but the rain is just an entirely different animal. But I guess it does also beg the question. I'm curious to see if the rain will continue into the race, because the rain may stay for the race, but it also may switch and it may revert back to dry.
And yeah, I'm just I got distracted. I was looking out the window because something you don't see very often, especially living in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could say, I mean, I'm in the Southeast, but I'm also upstate. So, you know, we don't get snow very often. And since about 4 a.m. this morning, it's been nonstop, just dropping. And they predicted we'd get 2 to 7 inches. And it's getting quite thick outside, which looks lovely, honestly. Because I lived up north for about 6 years, but it's a nice thing to see.
Yeah, and I will say that I have also been looking outside and watching, because it has been snowing all day for me as well. So Nishka actually did his lap, but he stays in P9. So both Red Bulls that have been dominant through the first 2 qualifying sessions, both are now at the bottom in P8 and P9. So maybe a little bit of a question mark there if the race is going to be in the rain then.
It is a bit of a question mark, but I mean, given the time left, they both have time to come around, especially Nishka. He has time, especially if he actually kind of, you know, planned for it. He may have actually took a slightly heavier fuel load to be able to come around, because as we know, with qualifying on inters and wets, you tend to be able to stay out and do lap after lap after lap, as long as you can manage the battery. You go out, run one, and then bring your battery back, then run another one. So maybe that might have been his plan the entire time. SJ, however, he may have had to go back in because he was already on the low fuel load, so he had to go back in, make an adjustment, and get fueled back up again.
Apologies, I was taking a drink, but I am curious because I mean, we talk about if they'll do well in the rain. Barry is on his outlap, and actually on the softs, he did end up setting a P6 time on the softs, but now this will be his first lap on the intermediate. So I'm kind of curious to see where Barry will be, because I mean, you set the first time on the softs in damp conditions, but now you have your chance to improve and see what you can do in the intermediate. So Nishka actually will retire, so he doesn't really see getting a better time, so he will retire from the session. And Governor has already started his lap as well, and Barry, and actually this might be close for Barry, the clock is hitting 10, and I think, is Barry gonna get it? Barry's just barely gonna get across the line and start his lap. Everyone else is finished, so now it comes down to Barry and the Governor, as they are now the only 2 drivers out on track to improve. And now I'm very curious to see Governor going out of Sector 2, starting into Sector 3. he's about a second slower than his fastest time right now that he has. So it is a possibility that he may stay where he is, but Barry's actually still slower than his time that he set on the soft. So it looks like maybe whatever time that you set on the first lap is probably the best that you're gonna get.
Absolutely. And one thing I actually noticed across all the drivers is they pretty much did a one and done as if they were on dry tire, as if it was dry conditions, you know, on slicks. They kind of went out, did the hot lap, and then went back to the pits. And I mean, in just personally with me, I tend to, if it's, you know, intermediate to wet conditions, I'll push about 3 to 4 laps out of wet tires, because as we know, the wet compound tires are not built to get super hot, but if you manage them just right, you can keep them in the window a lot longer. And as they tend to kind of get a bit more on them, they tend to grip up a little bit better as you put a couple more laps on them. So it's one thing I kind of noticed. So I mean, I'm pretty sure there was probably a little bit more left out there on the table for all these drivers to find, but nobody really pushed the envelope.
Yeah, I agree. No one really pushed the envelope. And as we talked about that, Barry did not set a faster lap, just kind of knew it, and actually went to brake to go into the pits and hit the barrier. They did not DNF, so they do keep their position in P6, but they did lose their front wing. So qualifying raised a bunch of questions. We saw the two Red Bulls dominate in the dry conditions, but then we saw them falter in the rain. So now the big question mark, what are the conditions for the race going to be? As we look at the top 10, Ced will set the fastest lap with a 143.5, and he will have pole position for the Mercedes. Bruiser in the V car will be in P2, Gianni in P3, Nemesis in P4, Harold P5, Barry P6, Tenzo P7, Zagovernor P8, and Nishka P9.
Absolutely. Now, here's the funny thing, and I'm going to ask you this question. You think it's going to rain for the race?
I don't know. I feel like it might start on the rain, but then I feel like it's going to get dry as it goes. I don't think it's going to rain for the whole race.
Here's the answer to that one. It's not. It's a dry race.
Oh, so it is. So it's a completely dry race.
So this is actually going to be very interesting now, because you've got a few drivers that are actually out of based on qualifying, what we saw through all 3 sessions, we've got a few drivers that are well out of position. You've got both Red Bull drivers that are out of position. Ced is also, he's kind of in position, but I feel like Bruiser may be able to put pressure on him. And then you've got Barry. He's been about right in the middle of that top 10 the entire time, so he's about where he needs to be. But I'm going to be interested to see if that Red Bull crew can actually be able to fight their way to the front.
Yeah, because they were, like we said, they were the fastest they were 2 of the fastest cars in the dry conditions. But now with a dry race, that's going to be the big question to see, because they are going to have to fight their way through the grid. And again, kind of like Division 1, it's going to be interesting to see what strategies the drivers have picked out, and maybe even more interesting considering that we have basically a full lobby. And I'm hoping that we did eventually get Blue in, so I'm hoping that Blue is going to be able to race. We'll see if he's going to. Like I said, I hope he's going to be able to, but it looks like it's shaping up to be a very interesting Div 2 race. As here we go in 5 lights time. And we are underway here in China for the Division 2 race. And it looks like Sid is going to get a fantastic launch right out of the gate. He's going to be able to secure P1, Bruiser P2, Gianni P3, but it looks like there's fighting as Nemesis is going to fight up into P4. They're side by side, a lot of the drivers, and now Tinzo fighting up into P5 as well, and he's going to be able to take it away. A lot of the drivers still fighting. The Governor, we talked about him earlier, moving up places. He's already up, and H-Town is out of the race. H-Town has crashed out of Sector 1, and immediately a virtual safety car is deployed, and H-Town, it becomes the first retirement of the race on lap 1, and now a safety car is deployed, and suspension ends up with a 10-second penalty.
Oh wow, that is quite that may hurt suspension later on, because I mean it's now a full safety car and he's got a 10-second time penalty, which means he's got a lot of work to do. He's got to build a gap, and then he's basically effectively gonna have to build about a 10-second gap to whoever's behind him, which in the case, John DT, who started at the back, is up 7 positions just in lap 1. So he had an absolute monster of a start. Whereas we see SJ moved up and improved position by 1. Barry fell back a couple positions. And Project Nemesis also fell back. Tinzo and Harold actually had pretty good starts as well, as they're up a couple positions. So this race is already shaken up to be quite the spicy one.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure what happened to H-Town. I was trying to flip the camera to see, but possibly either spin or maybe a collision coming out of the first few turns. So I'm not entirely sure what happened, but it does result in H-Town DNFing. Unfortunately, we did not get Blue in. I did get him into the server, but it looks like the game did not give him the other Mercedes seat. And I apologize that the game is not perfect. And I wish that we could get everyone in, but I mean, Division 1 race was crazy in its own way, just because of everyone moving up and down, going side by side almost the entire first lap. I was not expecting a first lap DNF crash in Division 2.
Not at all. And I mean, as we saw with Australia, I mean, that's not something I had actually, I thought was a thing for Div 2 to even happen. And especially when you got a driver the likes of H-Town, who we know he tends to keep things relatively clean. So I'm actually kind of shocked that here it is, he's out of the race right at the very beginning.
Yeah, definitely not predicted at all. And I mean, it does shake up this race. I guess it does shake up the race a little bit, because it just maybe shifts the strategies over a little bit. But I mean, the safety car doesn't really change a whole lot at this stage in the race, but we'll see how long the safety car lasts. It doesn't look like, not entirely sure if the race is, if it's coming in this lap. The lights are out, I believe. So I don't know if it's going in this lap or not, or no, the lights are still on. I apologize. So we will at least get one more lap of safety car. So we'll restart going into lap 4.
Oh, it's going to be quite interesting, because looking at the strategies here, as suspension is pulling into the pits, not sure, he may have sustained a bit of damage there, so he's probably going around to get that taken care of. But the the predicted pit window for the one stop is looking at about lap 16, 17. So it's going to be interesting to see if somebody tries to maybe go for that, and he actually is being able to serve that penalty. So he's actually, I guess he is getting quite the lucky one today, as he gets to serve the 10-second penalty and get away with it. and be able to catch back up to the back of the grid before the race restarts.
Yeah, the only downside about that is that he did start on the hard tires, so that kind of means that he's going to have to shift his entire strategy, because usually, and we saw in the Division 1 race that starting on the hard compound meant that a lot of these drivers were able to go a lot longer before they had to pit. And ultimately, you could even say that it helped them out the most, because, I mean, you saw both drivers that went from medium, hard, they were at the front, and then you saw people who went hard, medium were also at the front. So I guess it just comes down to whether or how the strategy will affect them, but we'll see, as the safety car will be in this lap. So Ced will take control in the Mercedes, as he will lead the grid down this very long straightaway as we look to restart the race.
And looking at the tire selections here, it seems like majority of the grid went for that medium tire to start on, and you've got a few that are actually running on that hard tire. And especially taking note of Tenzo, who is actually in P5 right now on that hard tire, made a very good start, and his teammate Barry actually opted for the hard tire as well. So McLaren doing a little something different in the top 10 there.
So the race will restart. Ced did get actually a very decent start. DRS is not enabled for the first lap, so Ced is able to at least get a half-second lead ahead of Bruiser. Going down the order, it looks like a lot of the drivers are staying the same, maybe getting a little close. Barry getting a little bit friendly with the governor, as maybe trying to push his way past, but it won't be enough. And so far, looking down the grid, it looks like everyone else has stayed roughly where they started. Maybe a little bit different. Suspension actually will be able to get up over Knox there, so Suspension will be able to actually get up over a place there with the new tires.
I'm pretty sure he's thinking that, hey, you know what? These guys have a couple laps on their tires already. Granted, it was under safety car, so they had a chance to kind of conserve and not take as much tire wear. But he's looking to maximize what he can do on those mediums as quick as possibly can to try and make up positions to get back to where he was. And looking at the running order right now, Ced is actually has already cleared DRS range of Bruiser, who is trying to stick in there to gain that DRS, while Gianni is also trying to get back in range of Bruiser before these guys can actually crack those the DRS flaps open and really start getting after each other.
And as you said, that DRS won't be active on this front stretch, and it won't matter, as Harold will overtake their teammate. So Harold will go up into P3. Barry will get a 3-second time penalty for track limits violations. So now DRS is enabled on this lap. It won't really affect going through sector 2. So we'll see. Right now, as you said before, Ced has been able to break that DRS train. But I think the bigger question might be if Harold can catch up to Bruiser. That Harold is kind of the leader right now of this other pack, where it's Harold, Gianni, Tenzo. So we'll see if maybe the three of them can get back in the fight using DRS. But I mean, I'm kind of surprised coming out of the safety car. I'm actually kind of shocked at how spread the grid has actually gotten.
Oh, absolutely. And now I'm looking at things here, and Barry actually has a 3-second time penalty already for track limits. And he's basically stuck in a DRS train with his teammate Tenzo up in P5, clinging to Gianni. So that's going to be interesting to see if they maybe try to play a team game of Barry maybe try to, hold back the pack a little bit to kind of help Tenzo, stay where he is, as Dr. J now gets through on Project Nemesis. And Harold, as you mentioned, Harold is also your current points leader after his win in Australia. Harold is looking to mean business and trying to fight his way back and get to the front as quick as he can.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess as well, we want to consider as well that Zaguvner and Nishka currently still holding their place. Barry is trying to chase down Zaguvner, but Nishka is right on their tail, and Project Nemesis as well. So I mean, you kind of see these groups that are all separated, that each of them have DRS, and actually we talk about that Harold has actually broken DRS from Gianni, but is almost within DRS range of Bruiser. So Harold is already making moves, and I'm just really curious to see how some of these moves are going to get done, because in Div 1 we saw especially like we saw 8 cars that were all within a second of each other, so you saw these huge DRS trains going through Sector 3 and Sector 1. So I'm kind of curious to see how that will change, because we don't see that here. There's not 8 or 9 cars that are all in a DRS train. We're only seeing maybe a couple as they head through DRS.
And I mean, honestly, this one is actually, looking from a standpoint, all these guys are actually pretty close with each other. Like what we were saying, you know, through qualifying, this dude is actually a pretty competitive bunch. Like they bow to no one, they give no quarter. It's almost like, you know, you would think that these guys, every last one of them are, I mean, to a point you can kind of say they are, every last one of them is racing to win the championship to make it into Div 1 next season.
Yeah, and ultimately that is what you're looking for. That's ultimately the goal, because you want to win the championship. But then I've definitely heard talk that a lot of some of the drivers were upset. Some drivers thought that they deserved a chance in Div 1, that they thought that they should have been in Div 1. This is really their chance to prove that they should be in Div 1. And I mean, right now, Ced is putting on a very clinical display, as now he's approaching a 3-second gap between him and Bruiser. But crucially, Harold has now caught up to Bruiser and is now only less than half a second behind Bruiser. So we're seeing it now. We're seeing the gaps starting to close between some of these lead cars.
Looking here, Bruiser's actually been managing the batteries, it looks like, through Section 1 and 2 to plan for the fact of Harold being within range to attack, because he's now holding that battery to try and keep Harold at bay, which, as we can see, didn't too much work as Harold makes the move and comes through. Now he can get after Ced. Harold is absolutely on a rampage early on in this race.
And actually, almost by default, that actually may help Bruiser, as Barry is looking around trying to, I believe, sorry, I saw Barry's name bounce around, so maybe there was a little bit of competition there. But I was going to say that this actually may help Bruiser get back into the fight, because if Harold is this fast and ends up catching up to Ced, that basically brings Bruiser back into the fight as well. So it may help him as well, and that may be a reason of why he didn't fight, because Bruiser may have enough ERS to end up retaking the position anyway. So ultimately, you don't want to fight too hard, because if you end up fighting too hard, you end up losing more time overall.
Absolutely, and that's one of those things where it comes down to the driver being able to control the emotions while they're, you know, flying down the track at, you know, 100 at 100, 150, in some places 200 miles an hour, and, you know, still being able to process, okay, I need to kind of wait a minute, let me not go for the move here, let me just kind of maybe sell him a dummy a little bit. As you see, Harold goes and pulls off the racing line down the back straight to try and break the slip of Bruiser to keep him behind.
Yeah, I mean, that will be really, actually, maybe that was my question answered. I was going to say, I'm curious to see how hard Bruiser will push because like we talked about him saving the battery, he didn't really push that much. So maybe he is just kind of relying on, hey, I'm just going to use DRS. I'll save my battery and I'll just wait for me to make my own move or make it on my own terms rather than trying to push too aggressively. But maybe a little unfortunately, Ced is pulling ahead of Harold. So maybe a little bit of a question mark there, as now Ced is just putting on a clinic, and I mean, maybe China is just his best track.
That is honestly quite possible. And I mean, China, I don't know, it's something about the track, the way it kind of flows, and it still kind of puzzles me at times, because earlier in the week, I actually managed to set what is a top 3% time in time trial around China. So that kind of gave me a bit of confidence of, hey, okay, maybe I actually do have something to offer in China, considering I don't have any other track that I've hit that high of a ranking in the time trial. So it might just come down to, I mean, not every driver is gonna have it just come out and, you know, be absolutely dominant at every track. I mean, as we see in real life F1, and especially in the 2023 season, yeah, Max Verstappen killed it at every track minus Singapore, but a lot of it wasn't just Max, it was also the car itself. So, but here in esports world, it's not really the car, because every car is at equal performance. So it then comes down to how well the driver has set the car up and how consistent they can be over every lap.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've definitely noticed that I think at least over my time here commentating, I've definitely noticed that having the best consistency will definitely help you in the long run. And I mean, we talk about who some of the best drivers are that, like, especially even in Div 1, that so far as we've seen, the best drivers are also the most consistent drivers. And I think that is just kind of a trend that we've seen over all of what you said in esports world, that that seems to be the most important thing, especially in racing. And I can definitely attest to that. I actually don't know if you know this or not, Wildcat, but I play esports for my college, and I play Rocket League and Overwatch for my college. And from my own experience, I can say that being consistent is going to be your best friend, because if you do amazing one game and horrible the next, ultimately you're really not helping the team. So you don't really help your own game. So I agree. And actually, we're seeing now, as I'm talking, I apologize, but now we're seeing a couple of the drivers start our first pit stops, as Gianni, Barry, and the Governor are the first ones in the pits.
Absolutely. And this battle between Harold and Bruiser is getting quite tight, as Bruiser actually managed to pull exactly what he needed to do out of Harold by getting Harold to drain that battery and be able to make the move into turn 3.
And actually, talking about that too, talking about turn 3, Bookie moves up into P6, passing Project Nemesis, had an absolute fantastic pass, basically in the exact same area that Harold and Bruiser did it. So now that we're seeing some pit stops, maybe here comes a little bit of a competition, because I am curious to see, because Tenzo is actually closing in on those top 2, and then you see that Ced is still in P1, so I'm curious to see when they're gonna pit. Wait, there is a caution in sector 2, and I believe
turn 3 looks like the Williams of Dr. J and the Sauber of Suspension had a little come together there, but they're both still moving, so I don't think it was too bad.
Yeah, no VSC or safety car deployed, so everything will stay the same. We'll see. I don't think I could ever get used to that. Actually, surprisingly, Tinzo will be the first one in the pits. That I don't think I can ever get used to the China pit lane where it looks like the cars are just sending it straight into the wall. I don't know if I can really ever get used to that, but we see that Tinzo actually will pit, and he's going to put on a fresh set of mediums. So the guy on the hard tires actually pit earlier than the ones on the medium tires.
Actually, looking as we were talking about that little bit of an incident between Dr. J and suspension's actually missing his front left end plate off the front wing, whereas Dr. J has no damage at all, and he's still continuing to go. So maybe he's feeling a bit confident to try, or he's trying to make it to his actual pit stop to get that fixed. But it's going to be interesting to see if he actually holds that position with Verstappen on 2-lap old hard tires, who actually went in early to push for an undercut, it looks like.
Yeah, and I think that, well, and actually I will say that now I just noticed that Harold actually broke DRS range out away from Bruiser. So Harold actually is now in P2. Koopa will end up getting a 3-second time penalty for track limits violations, but I'm very curious to see when these leaders are going to choose to pit. And as I say that, Bruiser and Harold are into the pits, and Nishka as well. So Ced on the medium compound is the only leader so far that has not pit.
And I mean, he seems to be still going pretty strong on those mediums right now. Granted, 12 laps old, but he seems to still be clocking in the laps pretty well. So he's looking to possibly make this a one-stop day and see you later. Whereas some of these other drivers are possibly they might be thinking about that late pit stop for a 2-stop, or possibly maybe a long 1-stop on the hard tires.
And I mean, we talked about it in the Div 1 race. People said that the 1-stop was a bad idea and it wasn't going to work. So now it looks like Div 2 is going to give their own shot at it, possibly, if Ced continues. But at least in the favor of Ced, he does have a good time barrier, as he is almost 14 seconds ahead of Bookie. So he does have a little bit of a barrier to work with, but more than likely, as he uses those tires, I mean, they are just going to get more worn and worn. So I'm curious to see if he is going to do the one-stop strategy, or if he maybe pulls in now and switches to another medium. And I just predicted it.
I was actually curious because as I noticed in the Div 1 race, when I went for the undercut in my little bit of a battle that I had on track, the undercut around China is very powerful, and if you stay out anything over, say, an extra lap or 2, you're going to be losing quite a bit of time to the car behind. So him pulling in when he did was probably for the best. Otherwise, he risked that Harold might be right there on his gearbox or ahead of him by the time he came back out the pit. So it was kind of a good thing that he came out when he did, and he still has a gap big enough to where Barry's not in DRS range on the medium tire currently, but those mediums are probably already fired up.
Probably a absolute masterclass of when to pit, because I mean, you said that he beat the crowd going out of the pit lane, and you know for a fact that Bookie is going to pit because he's on the 13-lap hard tires right now. So I'm kind of curious to see, because I mean, Ced went from the medium to the hard, and that makes me very curious to see if he's going to be trying to make it a one-stop race, because I mean, it looks possible that Harold and Bruiser may be doing the same thing, that Harold and Bruiser also went to the hard tires. So I guess we'll keep up on those developments to see how that will go throughout the race. But a lot of different plot points and a lot of different intrigue to see how this is going to end up.
And I mean, you've got both McLarens on the medium. You've got Harold and Bruiser behind on hard tires. Those mediums are going to give up before the hards. At least one would think that they would, but as we know, there are drivers out there who know how to manage a set of tires pretty well. So it's going to be interesting to see if Harold and Bruiser can get those hards in the window quickly to get around that McLaren pair and get after Ced before he gets too far down the road again.
Oh, maybe a little bit of a weird moment there as Knox, I believe that it's just an AI car, maybe freaked out some of the drivers a little bit, but no harm, no foul so far. And I think the good news for Ced right now is that he is keeping that 1 second gap, staying out of DRS range. And so far looking, John actually will peel into the pits for mediums as well. I believe he started on the hards, so now peeling in for a fresh set of mediums. But so far right now, I mean, right now it looks like, I think surprisingly, if you look through the top 10, in the top 10 you have both Racing Bulls, both McLarens, both Aston Martins, and both Red Bulls. And the only two drivers that are of a single team is Mercedes and an Alpine in Ced and Nemesis. So, I mean, you talk about the team game as well. I mean, this is really working out as we watch as now maybe the McLaren trying to make, oh my goodness, what a move by Harold. Or I believe that was Harold, or no, he tried. I thought Harold almost made the overtake at the same time, but he wasn't able to hold it. That was almost a fantastic move by Harold, but nonetheless, Barry actually moves up into P3. But yeah, we talk about even like not only solo, where obviously you want to win the race, but even from a team perspective, this has been a very good race for multiple teams.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm pretty sure the McLaren team principal's got to be pretty happy if his team manages, after everything they've been through, to bring it home as it stands. But as we know, Barry does have that 3 second time penalty. So his teammate, I'm not sure if they're thinking in the same, but if I were Barry's teammate and, you know, hey, this is going to be good points for the team, I'd be thinking in the mindset of, okay, let me try and back Harold up. Granted, we know Harold's means business today, but try to back him up to where Barry's 3 second penalty will keep him where he stands at the end for a good team result.
But I feel like right now, just for me, it's such a big question mark. Actually, Tenzo will overtake, and now wait, is Harold gonna try and do the double? But now look at the Racing Bull, Bruiser. Oh, and there's contact. Bruiser tried to do the ultimate dive bomb. It didn't work. So Tenzo, and actually after all that, Bruiser actually will end up in front of Harold. From what I can see, I don't think there's damage from, yeah, as far as I can see, it doesn't look like there's damage to any of the cars. I don't know how that happened. Barry will retake P3 on that DRS zone. I don't understand. In this group of cars, this is absolutely insane. And all of a sudden now Nishka joins in. And now we're kind of seeing what we saw in Div 1, where there's one big group of cars in a DRS train where they're all within a second of each other.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, these guys are putting on an absolute fantastic show of racecraft. And I mean, they're keeping it clean. I mean, they're pulling off some pretty gutsy moves in places where you normally wouldn't see a move that bold. You'd see a move, but not something as bold as trying to go for a double overtake. But this is shaping up to be quite the interesting battle for P3 right now to get on the podium. And as we see, Ced has already caught up to Bookie and passed Bookie for the lead. So Bookie may want to start thinking about getting in the pits, because this train behind him is not messing around.
Yeah, and actually, I would imagine that he is going to stop soon. That actually, Bookie has not stopped in this track or on this race yet. So I do think that maybe he's going for the one stop as well. And actually, he's just going to keep going. He doesn't stop once again, even though he's already out of DRS range from Ced. But I do think that Ced is probably going to. Now we have a retirement. I believe, yeah, it was Howell retires in the pits. So that is our second retirement of the day. And so far, wait, Harold may be going for the move, trying to make it stick. They're still side by side. Can they hold on? Still going, still side by side as they go out of sector 1. Now entering into sector 2 down the inside. Does Harold have it? And he does. He secures it. Harold up into P3. He's been fighting and battling. Barry might have something to say about it, as all of a sudden Barry roaring around the outside. I mean, this is fantastic racing so far. Still side by side and battling, as now Harold actually will get ahead of Barry for P3 already. What? This is great racing so far.
And that move, Harold actually kind of played off of what Bruiser did, because 2 laps ago we saw Bruiser try to make that mega dive bomb into the hairpin at the end of the back straight, and Bruiser actually went for it again. Except this time Harold actually managed to make it through, splitting the McLarens, which actually made him able to set up to make the move he did. But now he's kind of got to be on the defensive, with these drivers behind him being within DRS and them having what should be the grippier compound, but him being on those hards, he's got to pretty much put on a defensive masterclass to hold the podium at this point.
Oh, and maybe a little bit of a gutsy move. Does Bruiser hold on? He's trying to. They're wheel banging. I'm surprised he didn't lose an end plate. And Tenzo is just barely going to be able to hold on. I thought Bruiser for sure coming out of the DRS zone was going to have it, but somehow Tenzo was able to hold on. I mean, these drivers have been so close together. And I mean, even look at this. Nishka already moving up into P6. We actually did see Bookie finally pit. So now, unless Ced pits, this is a lot of people's true position right now. We can go ahead and look at the tires, as Ced and Harold have probably the freshest hard tires, but Barry and Tenzo both being on mediums, that may not be the best situation right now.
And I mean, you got 9 laps. We got 9 laps left to go. 9 laps, 8.5, give or take, left to go in this race. And you got Bruiser with 6-lap-old hards, Nishka behind with 6-lap-old hards. And the McLaren duo on 7 to 8 lap mediums, those mediums are possibly going to be cooked in the next I'm going to say they've got about maybe 5 laps to get it done, as Tenzo almost takes his teammate out in the hairpin, which probably almost benefited Bruiser. But they managed to get through unscathed.
So Barry goes into the pits.
There it is.
And now, look at how easy that was. The Barry goes into the pits, and then just like that, Bruiser goes right past Tenzo like he's not even there. So maybe the mediums have fallen off at this point. So now Bruiser's going to be able to pass, and he's going to try and catch up to Harold. But right now, this is Ced's race to lose, as he is now 9 seconds ahead of Harold.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is this race has been quite the one to watch, honestly. I mean, I'm probably going to go back and look at the Div 1 race later, but this has been quite the race to see today, with this battle of the, I guess you could say, battle for the podium, basically, because all these guys actually have a shot. And Bruiser, Tenzo, Nishka, you got Gianni still there as well. So these guys are all working like, hey, I have a shot. I'm within that distance to strike. It just becomes a game of when do you strike, and are these guys going to be able to manage those tires long enough to make it to the end?
Yeah, and actually, I do think that the McLaren probably will pit. Oh, there's a spin! Bruiser spins out of the hairpin and will fall down into P6. I don't know if it didn't look like there was contact. Nishko actually will pull into the pits right now as well. So Tenzo up into P3, Gianni up into P4, and Bruiser stays in P5. I'm not entirely sure why Nishka is pitting. He is putting on a pair of mediums, and
he's getting a brand new front wing as well. He actually took some end plate damage there. So what it looks to be, Nishka may have sent the dive on Tenzo and overshot just a little bit and caught the back end of Bruiser. So ultimately, Tenzo looks to be the one who benefited the most from it, but he's still now got Gianni behind on the hard tires, and I'm pretty sure that medium tire is probably screaming at this point. So Gianni's probably looking to size up a move and maybe pull off, maybe, you know, Aston Martin have a double podium today.
That is very possible, and I mean, but there is still the question, looking at the grid right now, from P1 to P7, everyone is on a one-stop strategy, and pretty much everyone from P8 roughly down to P12 have done 2 stops, with the exception of John DT. So I guess there is a possibility we could see another pit stop. But it's still just, I'm just still not entirely sure. As now Gianni to the inside. Does Gianni hold it? They're still side by side. There's contact. Both Gianni and Tenzo in the wall. Bruiser up into P3. So now that will definitely send Tenzo into the pits. Gianni will stay out on track. But somehow Gianni doesn't have any damage. So Gianni will continue right away, but Bruiser benefits the most and is up into P3.
I'm not even sure what happened there because, I mean, I caught it right at the end as, you know, you see the McLaren getting, you know, fed to the wall basically. And I'm pretty sure Tenzo's going to be fuming about that one. And we probably are going to hear quite the explosion coming from the steward's office later on that one. But I'm not exactly sure how Gianni escaped that without any kind of damage.
Yeah, I am also not entirely sure how that happened. But out of all of it, Bruiser is the biggest beneficiary. Tenzo does end up basically being forced to pit, but I mean, still looking at the rest, like we said, from P1 to P6, they have not stopped. More than likely, Bookie and Ced will go to the end without pitting again, but Harold, Bruiser, Gianni, and Nemesis are still kind of in a question mark because Gianni has the oldest tires out of that group. And I mean, maybe Nemesis could make it to the end. I do imagine that Ced and Harold are going to, as Bookie, just like that, is going to go through. Suspension will retire in the pits, so no safety car will be had there. But Bookie will pass Nemesis on the fresher mediums. So I'm kind of curious to see if Bookie's going to be able to catch Gianni possibly.
Honestly, it is quite possible that he could. If he runs enough flat out quality laps pretty much now to the end, I'm willing to bet he will catch Gianni by the end. And if he gets by Gianni with not too much of a struggle, he could possibly walk up to the back of Bruiser before the checker flag.
Yeah, I mean, if he runs quality, I mean, actually, as we say that, he was 4 seconds behind Gianni. In one lap, he cut down almost a full second, so he is already on screamers of laps. And it really comes down to having the fresher rubber, the fresher mediums over the old hards. So I do think that basically Bruiser, Harold, and Ced are currently safe, barring anything crazy happens. But I think right now, Gianni is the only one really right now in the danger zone, because I think just maybe pitting a bit too late for Barry, the two Red Bulls, and Tinzo may have really hurt their chances at trying to get a better position, or maybe even podium.
Oh, that most definitely did kind of hurt them, and Tinzo's little skirmish with Gianni didn't help that either. But Bookie may very well get to this podium, because he is actually already about to come to within 2 seconds of Gianni already, and I'm pretty sure Gianni's probably going to be already looking in the mirror, that's trying to see where Bookie is. So he's going to be feeling that pressure here real soon.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, Barry will overtake Project Nemesis and go up into P6. Still 3.8 if you want to be specific, behind Bookie. And once again, Bookie is catching up and just about 1.7 behind Gianni now. So, I mean, with only just about 4 laps to go, 5 laps or 4.5, give or take. I mean, there's a real chance that Bookie could catch up to Gianni, and like we said, depending on if anything else crazy happens, I guess we'll see what happens in terms of the other leaders as well.
Absolutely, and I mean, this race has had quite a bit of battling, and I mean, these guys have not. There's been honestly no regard for the fact of backing down, as we see Gianni lock up both fronts into the hairpin off the back straightaway. So I think Gianni's starting to feel a bit of that pressure. Bookie's not quite in DRS yet, and I say yet because Bookie is still flat out pushing. He's looking to try and get there.
But I mean, he is closing now. Bookie's within DRS range, so he is able to close it. And I was wondering about Barry, if he was going to start closing in on Bookie. He has not either. And right now, if we look around, the only closest players that we have right now is Bookie to Gianni, which is a 0.7 difference, and then Koopa to Dr. J in the battle for 12th. It's also a 0.7 difference. So a lot of the grid is roughly spread out over the track, I guess not evenly, but Ced has an 11-second lead over Harold. Harold has an 8-second lead over Bruiser. And then Bruiser has a 6-second lead over Gianni. So, I mean, and now actually you turn around, and I mean, maybe I need to stop talking, because now Barry is is just about a second outside of Bookie's pace.
And as you were talking, I was kind of keeping an eye on the Bookie Gianni battle, and it looks like the AI Ghost of Knox kind of messed Gianni up, because he put that front left on the curve, and he kind of, if you've never seen a Formula One car drifting, you don't want to, but he actually executed quite the masterful drift as the rear started to snap on him, and somehow held position in front of Bookie, who now has overtaken him.
Yeah, he was able to do it, and at first Bookie actually oversent the last hairpin, but he was able to keep it on the track and kept going. But now, if you're Bookie, obviously you want to put as much room between you and Gianni, but you already know Barry is hot on your tail. So, I mean, right now you have both Racing Bulls in a P3 and a P4, but it's going to come down to if Bookie can hold on, because Barry has only 1 lap fresher tires than Bookie, and you know that they're going to try and go to the end. And just like that, Barry actually will get around Gianni, so Gianni will slip another place down into P6. And I actually got to ask you, Wildcat, are you shocked to see this many drivers attempt the one-stop here? Because in Div 1, we didn't see any drivers attempt the one-stop. We only saw maybe 1 or 2 get to the end on the one-stop. Everyone else did too. So, I mean,
honestly, I can honestly say I am a bit shocked about how many have actually gone for that one-stop strategy, because I mean, and a lot of it kind of comes down to with Div 1 drivers, and I mean, I'm looking at myself as well. We tend to get a bit more aggressive because of the kind of pace that we're throwing down. So we're asking a lot more out of the tires per lap. So I'm actually not that much surprised that these Div 2 drivers have been able to make that one stop work for them. But that overtake with Barry going around Gianni looked like he kind of pulled throttle a little bit there, going through the high speed section of Sector 2, which there may have been something in there, like an NFL quarterback, you throw an interception, don't let it sit in your head, just kind of move past it. That may have actually still sat in his head, because that's where he actually had that bit of a drifting moment. So he might have lifted throttle and just let Barry through and say, you know what, no, I'm not going to fight this, I'm going to at least bring the car home.
Yeah, and I mean, considering that Gianni has the oldest lap tires on the grid with 16 lap old hard tires, probably the longest lap tires that we've seen in both Division 1 and Division 2 so far that we've seen here in China. We'll see where they finish. I guess they'll set the record. As watching the map, Said is heading through Sector 3 and is about to start the final lap. I don't think, unless there's something crazy happens, I think that there is basically, we all know who's going to end up winning the race, but right now the closest battle, Barry has entered DRS range. So despite the 3-second time penalty, there's a chance that Barry actually might still try to beat Bookie on track.
Oh, he's definitely going to go for it. I mean, 3-second time penalty or not, I mean, it's just, mindset of a driver, go for it anyway, because at the end of the day, yeah, you took the time penalty, but where you finished across the line, it's still a good feeling. Like, hey, under merit, I managed to pull off, and I'm here. So Barry's probably looking to put pressure on Bookie at this point, maybe get the overtake done, and then maybe force a mistake out of Bookie that makes Bookie's fall out of that 3-second gap, as Barry kind of walked away from Gianni with.
Oh my word, I apologize for the reaction as you were talking. I saw it looked like Barry was going to try to go to the outside, and then the very last second swerve to the inside, and I almost thought he wrecked the car. So that's what my reaction was. But they are still fighting tooth and nail through Sector 2. I mean, yeah, if you're a driver, even if you have the penalty, you figure just go for it anyway. You might as well. I mean, there goes Barry, just like that. Barry will go around Bookie and up into P4. We'll see if it hangs. But as they go around the final corner, he led the entire race, pure domination. And it's Said who will win the Chinese Grand Prix here in Division 2 here for Mercedes.
I mean, it was a masterclass from him. I mean, he showed up when he needed to. He was kind of hanging in there. Harry goes off at the hairpin. He tried to hang it, and Bookie said, absolutely not.
Oh my word, I don't think you could have gotten it closer, but it's going to be a Racing Bull 3 and 4. Barry actually will maintain P3, even P5 with the penalty. Nishka up into P6 will pass Gianni. Gianni up into P7. The Governor P8. Nemesis P9. Tinzo P10. Wilco in the Ferrari will finish right now, as it looks, in P11. Koopa and John actually are still in a battle right now, as this actually may come down to the end. We'll see. They both have penalties. I'm not entirely sure what the penalties all are. Oh, Koopa does have more penalties, but he still, obviously, as we said before, he wants to finish on track. John may be going for the move, maybe around the outside, and it doesn't look like he's not going to be able to hold on to it. So he is going to get the position anyway around the outside, as they will come home. Koopa in 12th, John in 13th. Fantastic race.
Oh, absolutely. This was quite the day. But from qualifying, completely throwing a team that looked very dominant from the start out of position with rain in Q3, and then a dry race, it which they weren't able to actually recover like we thought. So this season is off to quite the start.
Yeah, and I mean, I was wondering if I saw how far ahead Said was. I was wondering if it was going to be a boring race. I should just never question that with North America, Europe, or the Rust Racing Series. So as we look across the grid, Said with the race win, Nishka with the fastest lap, Bookie gets driver of the day and has the most overtakes as well. And we will quickly go down through the grid. Said with the race win, Harold P2, Bruiser P3, Bookie P4, Barry P5, Nishka P6, Gianni P7, Governor P8, Nemesis P9, Tinzo P10, Wilco P11, John P12, Koopa P13, Verstappen P14, DJ 15, or sorry, Dr. J 15th, Knox 16th. And I mean, man, I mean, that's all I got to say about the race. That's just, I thought Div 1 was intense. I was not familiar with Division 2's game, apparently.
Division 2, like everybody, it seems that people tend to sleep on the fact that just because you're in that slower division, it's going to be boring. It's going to be gaps galore, and you're just going to be finding yourself driving around in clean air by yourself all day. No. The bringing these drivers closer together in division by splitting divisions, it makes for much closer racing. So I'm actually quite pleased with what I saw out there in Division 2, and I tip my hat to all the drivers today.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely great racing, and we'll see if we can get the top 3 into the drivers. Oh, I do see Bruiser, so Bruiser is in. Yep, there we go. We got Bruiser. I do not believe Harold usually doesn't do the interviews, usually chooses not to. I don't know if we have Said in, at least I don't know if he will join. Hopefully he does. We'll see if we can get him in here as well. But so far, I mean, like we said, crazy race. Actually, if we can get Said in here, we'll see if we can get Said in here. But first, Bruiser, welcome in. Congratulations on the P3. And I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Feeling pretty good. Second podium. So feeling good. Came in second last race. So
Yeah.
Third's not too bad with my teammate right behind me. Had a great team, had great communication. So we did pretty good.
Yeah, and I can definitely say that you've raced really well. I mean, going from Australia into here in China, very good driving from you and very consistent driving. You're talking about that on the broadcast, that being consistent is probably one of the most important things. I do want to ask you though, this is going to be very interesting. In Division 1, we had Illyrian and a bunch of the other Division 1 drivers say that you should not do a one-stop in any circumstance on China. We go into this race and we see all top 5, or sorry, we see at least in the top 7 that at least 5 of those drivers did the one-stop. So, I mean, going through all the strategy, what was your plan?
My tires didn't even hit 50%. So I had a fantastic setup, and I just took care of the tires. And I saw that the Mercedes way up front, he was really, really pushing, but he seemed to manage his tires just as well. But I didn't even hit 50%. I was just coasting pretty much.
And I mean, hey, more power to you if you're able to do that. I know that I can't do that, and that's why You are in this racing, and I am a commentator enjoying watching you. And I do also want to say that, like you talked about it a little bit, you mentioned it, that a great result for VCarb having you in P3, your teammate in P4 behind you. And does that boost the confidence? Because I know that this is your first season. I know this is Bookie's first season. Does that really boost your morale as a team?
Absolutely. We were in communication throughout the whole race with our buddy Money, Scally Money, and he was helping us out. So that was pretty cool as like a engineer. I think we could have easily had I think he could have been in the podium as well if he didn't screw up on his quali. His third, he smashed into the wall, so he wasn't able to participate in third qual. So I think he could have done even better. So I think we got a good team.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that I think you do have a very good team indeed, and I can't wait to watch you through the rest of the season. Before you head out, before I let you go, and I appreciate you taking the time to be in here for the interview, do you have anyone that you would like to shout out for the stream?
Definitely Scally Money. He was the MVP for this race for sure. He had a fantastic race he had the fantastic Division 1 race, and then he helped us out for this division, so definitely solid dude.
And I'm pretty sure that he will be happy to hear that. Thank you so much for coming in for the interview, Bruiser, and congratulations on the podium, and I hope to see you in the next race.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you guys too.
So I mean, for Division 1, incredible race. Division 2, another incredible race in its own way. I mean, what are some of your final thoughts, Wildcat? I mean, it's just... You there, Wildcat?
I'm here. I was wrapping my stream out.
There you go. All good. I was just saying, do you have any final thoughts for the not only Division 2, but for both crazy races that we witnessed?
Honestly, I'm honestly quite. Both races they had their own share of crazy, but I mean, Division 2 kind of showed us that, you know, they've got some guys who got quite the pair on them, being able to pull off one stops, taking the mediums longer than they should, taking the hards farther than guys in Div 1 did, wheel-to-wheel battles for many a lap at a time without you know, giving up, and going right to the ragged edge. You know, we saw a few racing incidents, a couple incidents that may find its way to the steward's office. I mean, it was quite the day, honestly. And Division 2, these guys they are showing we're here, we want Division 1, and they're willing to give every and anything they have to get there. So I'm honestly I'm relatively, you know, I like what I'm seeing. And I mean, I know the game gives a driver of the day, but if I had to say, personally, I feel like Harold may be that driver of the day today, because he was from you know, about midway through the first stint, Harold it's like the beast was awakened, and he just started going to work and working his way up the grid. So I want to say that probably if I had to vote somebody driver of the day, I'm gonna give it to Harold.
Yeah, and I mean, the driver of the day really could have gone to anyone, and I think I felt that way as well in the first race, in the Division 1 race as well. But I mean, I think it just shows both races. I just think it shows how good the drivers are, because they do things that you normally wouldn't even think of doing, and they make it work. So, and I mean, I can't wait to see how the rest of this season is going to go. And I mean, it just makes me proud to see that North America is doing this well. That is going to wrap it up here for the broadcast. Thank you, everyone who came in and watching. We thank you all for your support, and we hope to see you here for the next race. If you guys want to know anything more about Rush Racing League, you guys can join in the Discord server in the Twitch description in the About section. We hope to see you back here. And before I almost forgot, before we go, just want to say shout out to Rush Racing and to the Rush Racing sponsors of Sim Racing Center, SimLab, Pagnian, and AI369. We hope to see you again here for the next race, which is, I believe, Silverstone. So we hope to see you back here, and we hope that you guys all have a great day, a great night, and we are signing off. I am your host, GameHawk, and alongside my co-commentator, Wildcat, and we will see you in the next race.